Hey guys, welcome back to A World Joe Traveled. Today is Switzerland Chapter 3, and we're going to talk through Jungfraujoch, which is the top of Europe. We're also going to talk through Grindelwald First and Gimmelwald. So these are the top things to do whenever you're in the Jungfrau region. Jungfraujoch is called the top of Europe, and they call it the top of Europe because it is the highest elevation in Europe that actually has a postal code. So that's why it's called the top of Europe. So there are multiple things to do up there, but first we're going to talk about how to even get up there. So you'll have to reserve a spot at a visitor center or at the local train station. And I would highly recommend to do this because it fills up pretty quickly. There's a lot of people that do decide to go up there. So book your spot in advance, and you can pick time slots that you go up and that you come back down. And I would recommend at least 2 hours, if not 3 hours. So depending on how big your party is, you may want a little bit more time. So there were quite a few things to do up in Jungfraujoch. So whenever we went up there, we weren't exactly sure what to expect. But what we found is that there was a museum, and it was pretty cool. You walk through and it kind of shows the history of how they built Jungfraujoch, which was fascinating to me. There's also an ice cave, and the ice cave was super cool. It was much larger than I thought it was going to be, and there was tons of ice sculptures in there as well. And we'll put video up of this because it was, super cool. They also had a Lindt chocolate factory. There were a couple of different restaurants. There were places to get drinks and coffee. Let's see, I've got notes here. All right, everything I just covered was on the inside of Jungfraujoch. So now we're going to talk about what you can do outside. So they have tubing, sledding, zip lining. Those all cost extra. We didn't do that whenever we were there because we didn't book enough time. I think we booked around 2 hours to be up there, and we spent all of that time. So we didn't have enough time left over to do the more fun activities, I would say. But those do cost extra, so if you're planning to do those, make sure that you've budgeted for those accordingly. Also, when you're up there, the views are spectacular. They're amazing. There's a massive glacier up there too that was really cool, so there's lots to see up there. We did find that it was pretty crowded whenever we were there, so I would make sure either go early or maybe go later in the day, but we went around noon to 2, I believe, and so it was super crowded. So just know that it does book up quickly, and they do max out the capacity as well. Okay, let's talk price. So it is kind of expensive to get up there. So if you do not have the Jungfrau travel pass, it is, and I've got my notes again, it is around 115 USD in order to get up there. If you do have the Jungfrau travel pass, it's around $72 to get up there. Prices do increase slightly over the summer months, so July and August they go up around $10 more. So just keep that in mind if that is, or I would budget for it. I thought that it was worth it. I would recommend doing it at least once. So take that or leave it. Before I get started on the next part, if you find our information useful, please subscribe. It helps us out here quite a bit. So how do you get up to Jungfraujoch? So you can either access it from Grindelwald or also from Lauterbrunnen. So you're going to take either trains up or cable cars up to Kleine Scheidegg. And Kleine Scheidegg, once you get off there, you disembark your train or your cable car, you're going to get in line for the Jungfraujoch train. So that's really how you get to it, but you have to have your ticket in order to get on the train. So overall, I would recommend doing this at least once. My honest opinion, it was pretty crowded whenever we were there. I didn't really care for that, but once we got out of the main areas, it wasn't too bad. We were there in late September and it was cold. So if you're going in an off-season time, I would be sure to pack a coat and a hat and maybe some gloves. It was also really slick outside, so we did see some people that were falling as they were walking, so just keep that in mind too. But we wore hiking boots, so that helped us with our traction. But yeah, I say it's highly worth it. I really enjoyed it. I plan to take my kids up there in May, so I'll let you know how it goes with them. All right, next we're going to talk through Grindelwald First. So whenever I was researching this area, Grindelwald First was a location that kept coming up as something we should do and see, but to me it looked super touristy, and so I didn't know if I wanted to go there. So we ended up checking it out because we were a little bit curious, and we were really glad that we did. So how we got there first was we left Jungfraujoch and we got on the cable car at Kleine Scheidig and took the cable car down to the Grindelwald station, their main station, and then we took a bus to the cable car for Grindelwald First. So if you have the Jungfrau travel pass, that cable car for Grindelwald First is a 50% discount. The gondola up to Grindelwald First was pretty small, so it only seated 4, so just keep that in mind if you have a big party. So we got there pretty late in the day, so we only had time to do the cliff walk, and the cliff walk was absolutely stunning. It was beautiful. I was a little nervous about it because whenever you think of cliff walk, you think of maybe it's dangerous, but it was super safe. Everything, the rails were really good. You could, everything you're walking on seemed really safe, really sturdy. The views were spectacular, unlike anything I've ever seen. We'll put some video up so you guys can see it, but highly, highly recommend. Whenever you get to the end of the cliff walk, there was a line to take pictures, but everybody was super kind and they were very patient. So take your time taking pictures at the end if there's a line. Hopefully everybody is as gracious to you as they were as gracious to us. All right, so other activities to do on Grindelwald First. So again, we didn't have time to do these activities, but we are going back in May and we do plan to do them with our children. So they had zip lining, so they had 2 different styles of zip lining. And I will say zip lining in Switzerland is different than zip lining in the States. So their zip lining is 1 zip line, not multiple different trees. So just keep that in mind as well. They also had trikes, and these trikes were pretty sturdy, but you basically drive them down the Alps. So it looked pretty fun and interesting, and I hope to do that whenever we're back there in May. It will make a pretty good video if I do. So let's see what else they had up there. They also have skiing there, obviously in the off season, and there's tons of hikes as well. So we plan to hit up some hikes whenever we're there in May. But Grindelwald First, whenever we were there, it wasn't super busy, but again, that was really late in the day, right when they were closing. So I expect that if you're there during the day, it's going to be much busier. The weather there too was fine. Again, we were there in late September. The weather was great. I think I had a flannel on, but that's about it. So yeah, I would highly recommend doing it. And if you don't have a huge budget, just go for the cliff walk. You won't regret it. All right, lastly, I want to talk to you guys about Gimmelwald. So Gimmelwald is the most adorable little village, and it's tucked up in the Alps. It's challenging to get to, or can be, but how you get to it is if you're in Lauterbrunnen, you're going to take the cable car up to Mürren, then you're going to get on the train to Mürren, and whenever you're in Mürren, you have to get off the train, you have to walk to the end of the city, and you get on another cable car. And that cable car ends up in Gimmelwald. It's a sleepy little village perched on the edge of the Alps, and we'll put some video up, but it is absolutely beautiful. They have a brewery up there, and they also have honesty shops. And so the honesty shops are pretty cool, so we'll put some pictures up of that as well. But really, you can just walk through the shop. If you want something, then you will put money in their container. Yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool, pretty cute. Let's see, what else? All right, so the major thing to do in Gimmelwald is the Via Ferrata. So whenever we were taking the cable car down from Mürren to Gimmelwald, we looked down and we saw this really cool bridge. And it was a suspension bridge over this massive waterfall, and it was just really cool. And I was like, I've got to get on that thing. So we decided to find it, and we didn't realize that that was part of the Via Ferrata trail. So we obviously didn't have the gear to do it, and then we got a little bit terrified, so we decided not to do it. But yeah, so we got pretty close and then realized how dangerous that was and decided to not do that part of the plan. But whenever we go back in May, I'm trying to psych myself up so I can do it. I think it would be really cool to do at least once, but it does look kind of terrifying. So if you're one of those that likes to get some adventure in you, or you have some adventure in you, then I would recommend doing the Via Ferrata. I believe it's $30 to get all the gear, and you get everything outfitted there, and then they set you on your trail. I'm not sure that you have a guide with you, so just keep that in mind as well. But highly recommend Gimmelwald, even if you're going for a drink or just some coffee, but it's just this beautiful little village. So overall, I would highly recommend going to Gimmelwald, even if you just want to see it. It's a beautiful, uncrowded little village. But yeah, so that's all I've got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you find this information useful, please subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. See you next time.